A mother of 7 walked into a bar. 3 days later, her body was found inside a submerged van at the bottom of a river. In the quiet, murky waters of the Brazos River in Texas, a rescue team discovered a Dodge Caravan resting beneath the surface. Inside was 39-year-old Consuelo Bernabe, a mother who had vanished 3 days earlier. No one heard a cry for help. No security cameras, no witnesses. Just one final message left on her phone. "I'm waiting for someone to come pick me up." It sounded like an ordinary statement, but 3 days later, it would become the greatest mystery of her life. Consuelo Bernabe was the kind of woman most people wouldn't notice in a crowd. She wasn't loud, she wasn't flashy, no sparkling social media presence. But in her own world, a world with 7 children, each with their own needs, she was the center of everything. Born and raised in southern Texas, Consuelo came from a generation of Latina women who placed family above all else. She worked multiple part-time jobs, cleaning houses, babysitting, picking up hourly shifts, whatever it took to provide for her kids without having to rely on anyone. People said she'd be up before the city stirred. Her hands, worn but steady, brewed coffee, made sandwiches, packed school uniforms, repeating the quiet choreography of a single mother who knew sacrifice like second nature. No one in the neighborhood could tell you exactly when her day began, but everyone knew she ended it later than most. Her eyes would grow heavy past 10 p.m., only after the youngest had finally fallen asleep. To outsiders, Consuelo might have seemed like an ordinary woman, but to her children, she was a living clock, on time, dependable, and always there. No one ever had to call her name twice. Just one word, Mom, was enough. David, her oldest son, remembers. She always picked up the phone. Always. Even if she was at work, she'd answer. If she didn't pick up, something was wrong. And it was that detail, small but deeply telling, that first sparked concern when Consuelo disappeared. No one believed she just left. She wasn't that kind of person. In the middle of all the busyness, there was something few people outside her family ever realized. Consuelo didn't have much of a support system. Friends, very few. Time to see them, even less. Family, most lived far away. Her children, though the greatest loves of her life, were also a weight she carried almost entirely on her own. For years, Consuelo never let herself break, not once. And that strength made it easy for others to assume she was always okay, even when she wasn't. One neighbor recalled, she was always smiling. But sometimes I'd see her sitting on the front step for a long time, just staring off, like she was thinking about someone or something she'd lost. Some nights, after finishing one shift, she'd dive straight into another, helping with homework, running out for medicine, soothing a fussy toddler to sleep. And when it was all done, there weren't many hours left for herself. And it was in those rare moments of quiet, when the noise stopped and the world paused, that loneliness revealed itself most clearly. No one really knew what she held inside. No one asked. The painful irony? The woman who was always giving was often the one who received the least. The woman who always showed up was the one people forgot to check on, until she didn't. We often think people vanish suddenly, but sometimes disappearing begins slowly, with the overlooked moments, the we'll talk laters, the phone calls that were never made. Consuelo had lived in that slow vanishing, a woman waiting for someone to truly see her. And that's what made her last message. "I'm waiting for someone to come pick me up," more than just a text. It was a quiet hope. For someone like Consuelo, a woman who always answered, always showed up, always managed her time, silence wasn't just strange. It was a warning. That day, Friday, she left the house like it was any other day. Told her daughter she was stepping out for a bit. Nothing unusual. No one thought twice. But then, her phone, usually active, went dark. The first missed call came at 9:17 p.m. At first, David assumed she was busy. But after the third, fourth, unanswered call, he knew something was wrong. That had never happened. Not once. Hermelinda, her eldest daughter, texted, "Mom, where are you? Are you okay?" No reply. As the night wore on, worry spread through the family, like a silent wave. No one screamed, but everyone felt the chill. She didn't come home that night. No message, no update. And her van, the Dodge Caravan, was nowhere to be found. By the next day, there were still no answers. When the family called the police, they described her as someone who never goes missing without a reason. But the system, as it often does, responded slowly. Adults have the right to leave. A dispatcher told them over the phone. That sentence, cold and dismissive, still haunts Hermelinda to this day. But the family knew. This wasn't like her. And that difference, however small, was the biggest red flag of all. Because when a mother disappears and leaves behind no sign, it's more than just an absence. It's a fracture, a break. And in just a few days, that break would split wide open when her van was found. On the night of August 15th, 2025, Consuelo walked into a small bar in Lott, Texas, not far from where she lived, but not a place she was known to frequent. No one knows why she went there. She wasn't with friends. There's no evidence she had plans to meet anyone. And according to those who saw her that night, nothing about her demeanor seemed unusual. The bar's cameras captured nothing. Either they weren't working or the footage was overwritten. Police records don't specify. But one crucial detail emerged from the family's account. Shortly after 9 p.m., Consuelo called home. Her voice wasn't panicked, but it wasn't exactly normal either. "I'm waiting for someone to come pick me up." It sounded simple enough. But in hindsight, that sentence became the center of everything. Who was she waiting for? Was it someone she knew? Someone new? And why didn't she just drive herself home? Her van was still there. David recalled. "I heard her voice, and there was something off. Not fear, but hesitation. No one knows if she left the bar with someone or which direction she went. But after that call, her phone went silent. Turned off, or turned off by someone. The last signal from her phone pinged near the intersection of University Parks Drive, close to the Brazos River. After that, nothing. The family grew increasingly anxious. But like so many missing persons cases in communities of color and Latinx neighborhoods, the system didn't react immediately. Police took the report, but insisted that adults have the right to go off on their own. No signs of foul play, no signs of violence. No reason, they said, to treat it as an emergency. But the question is, who decides what's normal? Because to Consuelo's family, everything about this was off, especially for someone like her. Saturday passed in a fog of uncertainty and helplessness. The family made calls, sent messages, checked social media, tried tracking her phone, doing everything they could. But there was nothing. The phone didn't ring. The messages weren't read. And the most terrifying part? Outside the family, it felt like no one truly cared. Her daughter Hermelinda said, "I must have called 100 times. I texted every way I could. But still, nothing. It was like she vanished into thin air." Police still didn't act. They said there was no evidence of harm. Maybe she just wanted to get away for a few days. That line made Hermelinda's chest tighten. Because her mother wasn't the kind of person who just got away. She had nowhere to run to. No cash on hand. No close friends or secret relationships. No reason to walk away from her kids, especially not like this. Not by shutting off her phone. Not by disappearing without a word. Not by leaving behind 7 children with no explanation. This didn't feel like a withdrawal. It felt like something had been cut off. Abruptly. Coldly. By Sunday, the family started calling local hospitals, jails, shelters, women's resource centers. The answer was the same everywhere. No one by the name Consuelo Bernabe. Meanwhile, police didn't organize a wide-scale search. There was no Amber Alert, no emergency bulletin, no image of her flashed across the news. 2 days stretched like 2 weeks, each minute heavier than the one before. And in that waiting, something darker began to settle in. It wasn't the fear of not knowing. It was the fear that maybe they did know. They just didn't want to admit it. Because when a woman like Consuelo, devoted, responsible, connected, vanishes without a trace, it usually means the worst has already happened. Monday morning, August 18th, 2025, a rescue team from the Waco Police Department was patrolling along the Brazos River. They hadn't been sent there for Consuelo's case. They were responding to an unrelated report about the water current. But then, beneath a mess of mud and tangled roots near the riverbank, something metallic caught their eye. A vehicle. Rescue crews called for backup. After several hours of extraction, a silver Dodge Caravan emerged from the water. It was damaged. Mud, algae, and river water had altered its appearance, but the license plate was intact. and it matched the missing vehicle listed by Consuelo's family. The doors were locked. No major signs of external impact. No debris nearby. Inside the van, they found a woman's body. It was Consuelo. When the police called, Hermelinda said she had known in her heart. But that didn't make it any easier. They called, said they found my mom in the river, in the van, alone. No one around. No explanation. The investigation shifted, but not in the way anyone hoped. There was no expanded crime scene. No press conference. No suspects. Just a vague preliminary conclusion. Death by unknown circumstances. The family was devastated. But for many in Texas's Black and Latin communities, it wasn't surprising. They'd seen it before. A disappearance ignored. A death labeled random. A woman left submerged, both literally and figuratively. The Brazos River gave Consuelo back, but it also raised a flood of unanswered questions. Who was the last person to see her? Why was she near the river? Did she drive herself into the water? Or did someone else? And if someone was involved, why, after all this time, has no one been held accountable? From the moment Consuelo's van was pulled from the Brazos River, the silence around her death began to echo with quiet alarm. The kind that suggests something is being left unsaid. Her vehicle was found submerged, but there were no brake marks, no broken guardrails, no tire tracks leading toward the water. It was as if the van had simply slipped in silently, deliberately. Even more unsettling, the location where the van was found wasn't on her route home. It was remote. No streetlights. No homes nearby. No reason for her to be there, especially not alone at night. Her family immediately asked for security footage from the area, but police said there were no public cameras capturing the vehicle's movements. And then came a detail that disturbed them even more. Consuelo's phone was missing. She never went anywhere without her phone. She either kept it charging in the car or tucked in her jacket pocket. Her whole family confirmed that. But now, the phone was gone, along with every call log, message, and GPS trail. No one could say for sure if it had been taken or if it simply fell out. And that made every possible explanation feel vague and suspicious. David, her eldest son, asked during a family meeting, if Mom drove herself into the river, then how come no one heard anything? And where's the phone? No one had answers. Just like no one could answer why authorities hadn't conducted a more thorough forensic investigation. Why hadn't they pulled phone records? Checked neighborhood surveillance? Alerted local media? The answer was always the same. There's no evidence of a crime. But that absence of evidence, was the most terrifying part. Because when nothing is found, no wounds, no witnesses, no data, it doesn't look like an accident. It looks like something was erased. And for families like the Bernabes, families without power, connections, or a loud public voice, erasure is almost never a coincidence. After Consuelo's body was recovered, police formally labeled the case as a questionable death, but they didn't open a criminal investigation. To the family, that was unacceptable. They pushed for updates, filed petitions, demanded that Waco police dig deeper, but every response they received was vague or contradictory. At first, they were told there were no signs of external trauma, but just days later, another investigator told Hermelinda, the body had been in the water too long to determine anything for sure. So which was it? No evidence or no way to tell? Then came the issue of the phone. They were told police did not find the device in the car. But when they requested the official report, there was no mention of a phone search. No record of any effort to recover or track her digital activity. No phone. No GPS data. No call history. Everything about Consuelo's final night was blank. And the deeper they looked, the more disturbing it became. There was no one actually assigned to her case. No lead investigator. No formal investigation plan. No forensic report sent to the family. Just a string of promises. That never turned into action. When the media began to take notice, a police spokesperson told reporters, this is a tragic case and we're continuing to gather information. But the family insists. They hadn't received a single meaningful update in weeks. David said it bluntly on local radio. If my mom's name were Karen and she lived in a richer neighborhood, this would have been on TV the first night. It wasn't meant to divide. It was a bitter truth. Some deaths are seen as suspicious immediately. Others have to scream just to be noticed. Consuelo belonged to the second group. And in that vacuum, amid shifting statements, missing evidence, and a system that kept saying, "We don't see anything unusual," a terrifying thought began to creep in. What if someone isn't seeing because they don't want to? It's been nearly a month since Consuelo's body was found. And still, her family has no clear answers about what happened on her final night. Then, a small overlooked detail resurfaced, not from a police report, but from the memory of her daughter, Hermelinda. She remembered that last call, her mother's voice, slightly rushed, and that short, haunting phrase, "I'm standing here, waiting for someone to pick me up." The question has always been, who? The family combed through every text, call log, device history, even bank transactions. Nothing. Until an old friend of Consuelo's, Rosa, reached out. Rosa said that a few weeks before she disappeared, Consuelo had briefly mentioned a man she'd just met, someone from the night shift at a warehouse, about a 40-minute drive from her home. According to Rosa, Consuelo didn't say much, just that he seemed different from the others. Under normal circumstances, that line wouldn't have stood out, but now it became the center of everything. Who was this man? Why hadn't anyone heard of him before? And could he have been the one she was waiting for that night? The family gave police the name Rosa vaguely recalled, Eli. The response? There's no evidence connecting Eli to the case. That was it. No follow-up. No phone tracing. No surveillance review from the bar. No formal interview. A living lead, possibly the key to the entire mystery, was dismissed with a single sentence. At a community gathering, Hermelinda broke down in tears. If he's not involved, then prove it. Why not clear it up from the start? Why is it always not enough evidence instead of we'll find out? Who exactly is being protected here? That moment was when the community finally began asking real questions. And among those questions, a disturbing suspicion emerged. Maybe this mystery man wasn't just a background figure. Maybe he was the central character, hiding in the shadows. The family refused to give up. Even as police declined to reopen the case, David, the eldest son, began his own investigation. He started asking around at the warehouse where Consuelo had worked. It took nearly 2 weeks, but he eventually found 2 people who remembered seeing her during a specific night shift, early August. One of them, a woman named Monica, recalled something strange. A man, tall, light-skinned, usually in a hoodie, had once picked up Consuelo after her shift. He didn't say much, she told David, but she looked cautious. That word, cautious, struck David like a gut punch. Consuelo wasn't quick to trust, and if something felt wrong, she'd never show it, unless she was under real pressure. So why did she keep seeing him? And if he made her uncomfortable, why didn't she walk away? Using the description, David searched social media, cross-referenced warehouse employee lists, even checked mutual friends. No one named Eli. No one matched the profile. It was like he didn't exist, at least not officially. And then, Rosa's offhand comment returned, suddenly chilling. She said he didn't use his real name. Now, everything clicked into place. A man with a fake name. No mutual friends. No digital footprint. No appearance in the police file. No interview. No questions. And the justice system, still unmoved. The family held a vigil for Consuelo. Over 100 people showed up, candles in hand, holding signs and photos. But no one from law enforcement came. No representatives. No public condolences. No acknowledgement. Hermelinda stood in the glow of candlelight, clutching a photo of her mother, her voice trembling. We didn't just lose our mom. We lost faith in the system. And if the person who hurt her is still out there, so he knows full well that no one's coming after him. No one in the crowd said a word. But everyone felt the weight of that truth. The pain of being abandoned in a world where justice isn't guaranteed, unless someone decides you're worth it. The twist in Consuelo's story didn't come from a shocking revelation. It came from silence. The silence of those who should have acted. Because when a man with no name, no face, and no record can enter someone's life, make them disappear, and walk away untouched, that's no longer just one tragic case. That's a systemic failure. Weeks after Consuelo's memorial, the family received a call they never expected from an anonymous intern at the police department. The person didn't say much. Just one sentence. There's a report that got shelved. It's sitting in the unclassified files. Hermelinda immediately demanded access to the case file. It took weeks of pressure, legal counsel, and persistence. But finally, they obtained a redacted copy of the case record. And in it, one single line left the entire family frozen. A possible witness saw a silver van near the river around midnight, but was not followed up. A witness. Someone who saw her van near the time she was believed to have vanished. No one had ever mentioned this. Not in reports. Not in press releases. Not in any of the repeated claims that the investigation is ongoing. And with that one sentence, everything they believed started to shake. Had the police truly done all they could? Was Eli even real? Or had their memories, their grief, their desperation for answers been manipulated by hope? Did Consuelo drive herself to the river? Or was someone else behind the wheel after she was no longer conscious? David found himself asking a question he had never dared to say out loud. What if more than one person knows what happened? What if someone saw and said nothing? Their trust began to collapse, not just in the police, but even in their own assumptions, because they realized every theory they had carefully constructed might just be a coping mechanism, an attempt to make sense of a world that has never played fair. Now, there wasn't just an unnamed suspect. There was a chain of people who should have seen something and chose not to. And as the case twisted deeper into a maze with no map and no beginning, the family was forced to face a bitter truth. They may never know what really happened. In that same case file, beneath the forgotten witness note, was another detail. Small, vague, but enough to make Hermelinda's heart stop for a second. At the bottom, under the label "Incomplete, awaiting verification," was a reference to an electronic device found along the riverbank, about 200 meters from where the van was recovered. No description of what it was, no date, no record of who found it, just a property code, never mentioned in any official report. David immediately called the department. Their response? We cannot confirm whether that item is related to the case, but if it's not related, why is it documented? And if it is, why hasn't it been investigated? That single question led to a bigger, darker suspicion. What if someone knows the truth and is actively choosing to keep it hidden? Hermelinda began having nightmares. In them, she sees her mother sitting inside the van, staring through the windshield. But it's not the water she's watching. It's the people on the riverbank. So, shadowed figures, standing still, watching her, then turning away. No one calls for help. No one moves. Just silence. And when she wakes up, the most terrifying part is she's not sure it was a dream, because in the real world, people are turning away too. A witness ignored. A piece of evidence dismissed. A statement unverified. A case left cold. Each of these things, small on their own, come together to reveal a truth that can no longer be denied. This isn't just the disappearance of one woman. This is a disappearance of the system itself, where justice lies buried, just like that van at the bottom of the river. October 2025. 2 months since Consuelo's body was found, and her case file still sat untouched, labeled simply undetermined. No charges filed. No one called in. Not even a complete autopsy report shared with her family. Her Dodge Caravan, now dry, sitting in an impound lot, had become a strange monument to a death no one wanted to speak about. David often visited the lot in the evenings, just to sit in the car for a few quiet minutes. He said, "I don't know what my mom went through in here, but I won't let her story end in silence." Hermelinda chose a different path. She printed hundreds of flyers, emailed local news outlets, posted every fragment of every lead the family had uncovered, partly out of grief, partly out of fear that if they stopped talking, her mother would disappear again, this time from memory. My mom deserves to be remembered, not just as a victim, but as a human being, a mother, a woman with a name, a face, and a story. But in the minds of many, Consuelo's story remains unfinished. There's no ending, no resolution, no one held accountable. Just a van pulled from the river, and a flood of unanswered questions drifting downstream. And somewhere out there, maybe someone is still living as if nothing ever happened. Someone who picked her up, or left her behind. Or maybe it was all a terrible accident. But what kind of accident causes a woman to vanish for 3 days? With no trace, no data, and no one in the system willing to speak? What kind of accident still has everyone afraid to look it in the eye?